cool. Ha. Oh yeah! Ha, 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 ha. Alright guys, I'm dropping a video for Torchlight Frontiers today, and I released a video recently covering my thoughts on how the game was feeling about 8 hours in, and the general consensus was, I am very underwhelmed. And the general consensus from you guys was, well, we are very underwhelmed by your video. And that's totally okay. I kind of approached that video in a joking way, which I realized was a mistake, especially when saying a game hasn't turned out too well so far. I needed to back up my points in a proper way, and I hope to do that here. I also decided to keep playing Frontiers and made it to a total of 25 hours, so I can get a more accurate glimpse into the state of the game and to throw the jokes aside and approach how I feel about the Torchlight sequel in a more clear way. Now just keep in mind, first off, this game is in closed alpha, and while I may harbor some concerns about Torchlight Frontiers, it's important to remember this game is very actively being worked on by a pretty awesome dev team that's super active in their Discord, and they're always listening to the community concerns, which is freaking awesome. And also, this is just my opinion, and I always suggest people play the game themselves. This video is just to share my opinion on what I think should be worked on before final release. I know a lot will be added to the game. Alright, so let's jump in. I always like to cover my pros first, so that's what we'll do. First up, the visuals are pretty nice considering the style they went for. Sure, the graphic fidelity isn't lifelike like most games that come out now strive for, obviously, but it's its own charming style, which will certainly please all those children that are going to be playing this on mobile on their mom's iPad, because I'm getting some hardcore mobile vibes from this game. I'm calling it here. But anyways, yeah, that being said, it's pretty nice and vibrant, which kids will love, but adults will love it too, because I'm a grown-ass man and I still watch Totally Spies. The contrast and saturation of colors helps the game's visuals pop, just like the last two Torchlight games. The only criticism I have for the visuals is the spells don't really have that oomph factor in combat. They all appear kind of weak, and the game never really packs a punch in terms of graphically bringing the combat to life. But all in all, as a guy who likes the prettiest of graphics, but can't afford a box of toothpicks for get a graphics card, the game looks pretty. Next pro, the animations are really smooth and well done. A lot of animations look pretty creative as well, like these skeletons I fought, which would have things like swords lodged in them as they laid still on the ground. But as I got closer, this skeleton came to life and struggled to pull this sword out of him so he could try using said sword on me. And it kinda spooked me, to be honest, so animator on the team. Not cool. I mean, honestly, I've been a game animator for 2 years now, and I think let's put it this way. If I applied and whoever the animator is on their team right now beat me out for the job, I'd probably say they made a good choice. And that is equally as insulting to me as it is flattering to you. Hire me. I'm between jobs. But for real, the animations feed into the feeling of Torchlight Frontiers being a smooth game performance-wise. And that's the next pro as well. The performance has felt mostly fantastic. I personally have not had any frame drops, the lag is non-existent, the game performance-wise has just run really smoothly on my end. I mean, I guess not everyone's as fortunate, because I saw this and immediately lost my shit. I mean, you just gotta read it, it's funny. I'm an asshole. Next pro, regular gear drops are not a problem in this game. I've heard of much higher profile games not getting this right. Y'all know what I'm talking about, but in case you don't, here you go. You'll regularly be sifting through plenty of gear because luckily there are a consistent amount of drops that you won't just default to the trash bin. You're the trash can, Tina, you're the trash can. Damn it. Knocked over my coffee cup. I seriously do not care about this pet. Anyways, you can send gear to your pet to get them to hold on to it when your inventory fills up, and it will, very regularly. To put it in simple terms, if you eat gear, you'd be fat, because Torchlight Frontiers feeds you a lot of it. I'm listening to that back, and I think that made it more complicated. And to add to that, gear starts to look pretty cool over time. You start off, like in every other action role-playing game, looking like you just got home from a pilgrimage, and the real reason you need to go kill half the world's population is to find gear that's the medieval equivalent to Versace clothes. And a lot of the gear you collect in the first 5 levels will look more like you shopped at Value Village, but over time the pieces start looking really neat and unique and more badass. It would be super slick if you could dye gear certain colors, because a lot of these gear pieces you find are a very strong saturation of whatever the color they are. So that would be really awesome to have, just so we could add that extra hype to our gear. Now, I gotta put the development team under the pros. I see them constantly engaging with the community, talking in Discord, really just putting in the effort to interact with their player base, and understand what we want or don't want from the game. That's one of the reasons I'm making a video about this, because I feel comfortable critiquing a game that's made by developers who are wanting lots of feedback. And that's really awesome to see. I mean, even the community has seemed so awesome, and this community that's formed both on Discord and Reddit are full of positive people just reinforcing the game. And let me tell you, the amount of times I've joined Discords for games and there's a large handful of toxic players, well, I don't have enough fingers to count how many times that's happened. I don't know why I do that. I just break into these weird accents I'm not even good at. Just shut up, Goose, shut up! Alright guys, we're going into the cons. So before we cover this, I want to reiterate, I know it's an alpha. The reason for this type of video is to provide feedback that I think would help the game going forward. The developers are looking for feedback, and I know they'll be fixing and adding things left and right. I'm completely aware of this. Alright, so my first con is the grind gets a fair bit worse as you keep playing. When I was finally able to buy my first new attack skill, it cost me 200 skill points, 400 skill points if I include the upgrade to the Arcanum. So it took hours of gameplay just for a new attack skill. And I was excited. Finally, a new skill, I said. And just as fast as my schlong got hard, it deflated at the same speed when I see that after I purchase my first attack, all the other skills get a huge cost boost. All the remaining attack skill prices increased by 250%. What? Why? I haven't noticed a significant increase in my acquisition of skill points as I've been playing. I'm earning them a bit faster than when I was at the beginning of the game, so why do you think it's fun to over double the cost of earning a new skill after purchasing one? Like, what's gonna be in this game's cash shop is what comes to mind right now. Progression was already so slow for not just an action RPG game, but any game. Like, progression in this game has sucked, but then this shit happened and, well, I'm no longer constipated because it made me shit myself. Developers, I don't know what the game plan is here, but you're kind of ruining the joy there is in this game by making progression such a bitch. I actually earned those 500 skill points after slogging through more boring gameplay, so I spent the 500 SP on getting a new skill again, and then the next unlock got bumped to 1000 points. I have bought 2 new attacks in 25 hours of playing. This is just bizarre to me, because what keeps these kinds of games exciting is unlocking new skills, which makes the combat more exciting when you have more tools to use. But this ties into another big issue, the combat, which doesn't even require you to unlock any new skills. But I'll get to that in a moment. I want to cover some other issues with it first. Fighting doesn't feel very flowy and fluid. Each skill has felt like its own separate move, when a lot of RPGs have been great at making different attack skills pretty seamlessly blend into each other. But in Frontiers, there's no connection between skills, they're all just their own thing. And then other things kind of break the fun, like my character regularly got caught on enemies, which results in him not being able to move at all while being just swarmed by these massive hordes. You can't move and attack at the same time, so your character will be stuck in place while you use a skill. So it would be really cool if they even just added the ability to move more slowly while attacking for some of the regular skills you'll be using. I think even a small change like this would be a great start on making combat feel less clunky. This problem results in dodging ranged attacks becoming a pain because you need to wait for your character to stop his attack animation, move him, attack again, wait for the attack animation again, and move him again. So yeah, I'd love to see more dynamism, if that's a word, in the combat. So my next con is the enemies got old practically 2 hours into the game, and unfortunately I'm still fighting the same ones, some having the slightest variations like an increase in size and height. You're going to be seeing and fighting the same creatures in the first 5 hours as you will be at the 25-hour mark. To make matters worse, there's really been zero strategy needed to fight any of these enemies, even the bosses. At best, I've had to be vigilant using potions and monitoring my health and mana while fighting a boss, and at worst, which has been 99% of the fights, you're just spamming attacks that aren't exciting at all, and at mindless waves of enemies. You'll rarely just fight one at a time unless it's a boss scenario. Torchlight Frontiers fights really feel like they're purely a quantity over quality engagement, and the result is, while you'll feel like a badass mowing down hordes of these guys as you work through a biome, it'll quickly become stale and you'll be yearning for an actually strategically demanding fight instead of just killing what essentially fights like cannon fodder. And I mentioned it in my last video, but I have pretty much gotten away playing the whole game using the 3 attack skills I started with. I've only unlocked 2 more attack skills, and not only have I never needed to use them, but when I do, I not only do it because I'm getting bored of using the same ones as opposed to needing to use it, but they feel less effective than my starter skills. A quote from my last video, I said, "You'll find out quickly you really only need the 2 spammy attacks that are default bound to your mouse keys, so unlocking even one new skill takes far too much grinding, because in games like this, unlocking new skills is what keeps combat exciting, but on top of that, in my 7 hours, there hasn't been a need for more skills, because the combat and enemies feel so simplistic that I've played the whole game just using my mouse spam attacks." This is true at the 7-hour mark as it is at the 25-hour mark. Alright, moving along, the quests are so unimaginative and lack any creativity. They are as simple as it gets, and give you no incentive to actually go and do the quest. Hand a crayon to a child and tell them to start writing. You're gonna see something really cool happen. They're writing out a better script than most of these quests. What? Does it make sense? No. But life is sometimes confusing. It's just generic quest after generic quest. Go find this guy, take out your sword, launch it 10 feet up his ass, and be home by supper. Because I have another quest with practically the exact same objective for you. So, you're not getting supper because you gotta do this. Awkward. The story is as bare bones as the questing. I actually don't even think there really is a story. I mean, you know how most MMORPGs or RPGs you play, you accept a quest, and then you can open your quest log and you'll click any of the quests in there and a bunch of dialogue will pop up, offering the background of the quest or what the purpose of what you're doing is. Yeah, Frontiers doesn't even offer that. Your quests just pop up as a cluttered list of where to go or specifically what to find. It's like the game doesn't even try to add immersion, and the result is the game unfortunately shows its true nature, which is a grindfest that reminded me of some mobile ARPGs I've played. Now, this is just a personal feeling, but the Frontier system, while unique to other games, hasn't really been executed in a memorable way. How the system works is there are different frontiers in this Torchlight sequel, and these frontiers are essentially made up of a handful of connected zones, where when you're in these zones, you will just be gaining XP for the frontier the zone is counted under. Now, this sounded like a neat idea because it seemed to fix that problem that's well known in MMORPGs specifically, where you outlevel a zone and there's just no reason to return to it. Like, ever, for the rest of the game. Now, obviously, this isn't the case in Torchlight Frontiers because it's divided up leveling so that there's not just an incentive to try different paths to level, but it's actually mandatory if you want to follow the quest lines. Anyways, it just didn't really stand out to me as like a feature that needs to be experienced. It just doesn't feel necessary in Frontiers because each zone essentially boils down to the exact same gameplay, with the only change being the gear you're going to wear to negate the damage type of the enemies in that frontier. There's not much to differentiate between the two zones, aside from the environments and enemies being different, but the enemies are essentially all the same as well, intelligence and attack-wise, so the result is you'll just feel like you're repeating extremely similar content in each frontier for no good reason. Alright guys, so we're at my final verdict. My biggest concern for Torchlight Frontiers is how far along the game is in development, and how there is what feels like a complete lack of depth in all of the game's mechanics, despite being this far along. And is it possible that this can be remedied before the game's official release? While I'm confident in the dev team and how they engage with their community and its feedback, I am definitely worried about how elementary a lot of the gameplay feels. The combat, the questing, the world building, all feel like they're in a basic state that puts a direct hit on immersion and fun. I played for 25 hours, 3 hours testing out the Forge class, and then 22 hours with the Dusk Mage, working my way through each frontier. The game at the 2-hour mark has felt practically identical to the game at the 25-hour mark. I have unlocked only 2 new attack skills and 3 passive skills, and I keep drawing on this point because there's not much else to do in this game aside from getting gear and earning these new skills. Yes, you can work on building your fort, but it doesn't feel too fleshed out yet, so there's not a whole lot you can add, because a lot of it costs like a crap ton of money. The enemies still felt like cannon fodder, and the bosses are the same, only with more health in some cases. I've heard the devs will be adding a new frontier as well as new skills and classes, some more features for pets, and so on, but if they are just added onto what has already been so far a grindy and frankly unengaging gameplay loop, that won't make Torchlight Frontiers feel better to play. I always recommend games based on if they're fun, so in its current state I wouldn't recommend Frontiers. That being said, Torchlight Frontiers is a game I've been looking forward to for a very long time, so I'm still excited to see what the developers add going forward. These guys are driven, and if you get involved in the alpha and want to share your thoughts, you can rest easy knowing that they will listen to your opinions. and the community is friendly as heck and welcomes all open discussion as well. This reason alone is enough to make me keep my eyes glued to the progress Torchlight Frontiers makes leading up to release. Now, as a reminder, this video is just to share how I feel about the state of the game, and what I hope gets worked on. So I want to know how you guys are feeling about Torchlight Frontiers so far, or if you haven't tried it, are you excited to, or what are your reservations? Drop a comment below, and, well, this is the end of the video, so consider subscribing. I apologize about that last video, I didn't really approach it professionally, I was kind of messing around, and for something like this, I feel like I really need to explain myself a lot better, especially when I'm pretty much saying a game's got a lot of problems. Anyways, consider hitting that subscribe button, consider hitting that like button, and if you are hitting the dislike button, just let me know why, just so I can always, I like to grow and figure things out and get better at what I do. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, take care.